Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the CoinGeek Weekly Livestream. I am your host, Mr. Kurt Wuckert Jr., of course, wearing a Hawaiian shirt because I live in Florida now, which doesn't make a lick of sense when I say it, but it sure sounded good in my head. How's everybody doing? I'm doing well. I am caffeinated, not sponsored by, so I won't be showing the logo of the local coffee haunt, but the coffee's pretty good where I'm at anyways. So today we are doing an Ask Me Anything show. It is the AMA. I can see there's people already filling in, but please, before we do anything else, I need you to like, subscribe, etc. I'm sure if you're watching now, you're probably already subscribed, but if you could share a link to this video across all social media, share it to Twitter, share it to Facebook, share on Twetch, share on Powping, share on whatever else I haven't said yet. You could even share it on Reddit so our dear friend Greg Maxwell can join in. I would love to have a text-based conversation where I get to speak and he only gets to text and talk a little bit about Bitcoin. So we're going to be talking about a whole bunch of good stuff today. I've been doing a little bit of research into the price because there's some weird stuff going on. If you look at the price action over the last 2 weeks, so as people have been withdrawing from Bitfinex and Huobi and some of the other places, we've seen liquidity dry up on the centralized exchanges in a few spots. And if you look at some of the minute charts, the zigzag price, so what's happening there is that these margin exchanges, which, margin trading is all well and good, but what they're doing is they are forced to close shorts in order to actually take in the BSV so that they can send it to you, because they're basically staking it as collateral in order to open margin trades against it. So when you make the withdrawal, they have to buy. And so we're seeing zigzag prices on like the minute chart where the price will go up by like 10%, and then it zigzags right back down. And what that is that's when they have opened up another short to push the price back down. So we're seeing a very real effect from token swap. And so as people go to use token swap, it dries up liquidity on the centralized exchanges, and it is pushing the prices up, which is very interesting. It's something I've theorized would happen for quite a long time, but we haven't really had a great option for real trading opportunity. I know TDXP is really good, but I don't like that you have to lock your money up for like a year. And then, the trading situation is great there. I actually think TDXP's trading engine and all that looks really, really good. But I also like the fact that you can use leverage on various things, and it's a good system, but it's a little bit different. And something about this T-Swap DeFi thing really just lit a bunch of people up. So a bunch of people are very, very excited. And don't blame you. It's nice to go harvest your yields at the end of every block if that's the kind of person you are. I would probably wait, 24 hours and do it once a day so I can live my life. But again, I'm not the typical degen that's out there doing the trading the way they do. So it's Joey Ferguson asking, have I met Florida Man yet? I know he's nearby. I've met a number of men who are certainly candidates to be Florida Man. In fact, I had my wife tell me last night that she was at the park and somebody walked up and was, you have beautiful children, and just really wigged out and super weird. And she had to be like, man, I almost dropped them. So that was a good one. But yeah, no, Florida is an interesting place in many regards. I really love it here, though. I'm really enjoying the whole thing. I have a little story to tell, actually, about the Florida experience in the blockchain space, but I'm going to save it for a little bit later. Vineet Kamal, Kurt, any news on what Ryan X is up to nowadays? I have not heard one single peep. I don't know that he has said a single public thing since he was on the CoinGeek Weekly Livestream, which was got to be like the 5th show we ever did or something. And he was good. He was a really good guest. I actually don't know Ryan very well. I never really worked with him much. We always had a nice, cordial relationship. I don't dislike him. It's nothing like that. But I wouldn't say that we're not friends, but we're friendly. And so he wouldn't necessarily tell me what he would be up to, but what he told us on the show before he left is that he is working on some implementation of SPV, and he'll be back when he's ready to market it, basically. Like when it is 99% done and time to start telling people it's going to be time to use it soon. So that's it, though. That's all we got. So hopefully he's well. I know he took a pretty big exit from Fabriik, as I understand it, and they bought Money Button and all of that from him, and he's done quite well for himself in that regard. So I hope he's well. He's a good guy. I miss his input. So Joshua Arroyo, Craig needs to dump BTC as soon as he gets his coin. Kurt, can you talk about Solana and explain if they can scale or not? I will talk a little bit about Solana. Actually, so let me start by telling my Florida story. I went out to dinner in Miami on Saturday night with a number of people that are involved in the Solana ecosystem. They wanted to talk to me about BSV and other stuff. So for those who don't know, Miami has a contingent of FTX people. They're sponsors of the arena here where the Miami Heat play. So there were, I think they've renamed it the FTX Arena. I heard that was on again, off again, sort of. But there's a Miami thing in the Solana and FTX zone. So there's some Solana people here. And I got invited to a dinner because they wanted to talk a little bit about BSV and scaling and some of this other stuff. Solana, I actually wrote an article about this. I think it's my most recent article, actually. So if you want to read a little bit about it, I covered that personally and in not a whole lot of detail. So it's not like a super technical thing, but it just sort of explains how it works and why it works. But the interesting thing about Solana is that they understand the real value of parallelization of transactions. So at the transaction level, things are parallelized, which is really smart. This is how they get to their claim of like 60 or 100,000 transactions a second or whatever they say that they're capable of. But the problem is that at the consensus level, it is still a serialized consensus, just like Ethereum. So all nodes must pass all thresholds together. And since that's the case, well, Solana has that as a hard limitation to how much they can scale without completely re-engineering the network. Now, what they have done really well is they have built a fantastic front end. They utilize, the nature of state and, Ethereum virtual machine stuff. The lessons that were learned there, they applied really well. And then they also understood that, parallelizing and some of that is good. It's also really apparent that they have been looking at the work that we've been doing in BSV and implementing the things that they see as the most valuable into Solana. So we are definitely cross-pollinating them, which has made them quite successful because, they're an Andreessen Horowitz-backed Silicon Valley startup. Also, they have a CEO and a number of things over at Solana. And they're a darling in Silicon Valley. So the fact that they receive money from Andreessen Horowitz and Coinbase Ventures and some of these other places means that, well, all the usual suspects are okay to go try Solana also. They are part of the approved narrative and the insiders cabal and blah, blah, blah. So the people that I had dinner with, though, we had quite a lengthy conversation about BSV and scaling, and they are genuinely concerned about some of the issues that they've had that are associated to their proof of stake centralization issues. And the fact that they can reboot their network is an example of being too centralized. You can't just go reboot a decentralized network. Like, that should require a lot of coordination, unless it's, the CEO says, hey, everybody reboot your nodes. And that's what happens. So they do have their issues, primarily in governance, but then secondarily in scaling. They've just made themselves basically capable of going for about the next 5 or 10 years, probably, and scaling as much as they need to compete. But if they're already getting DOS attacked and the whole network unwinds, well, then they're already not fast enough for what they need to be. So it's a little bit of a one of those things where it's like wait and see. BSV never hits a scaling ceiling because BSV is Bitcoin, and Satoshi was very clear that Bitcoin never hits a scaling ceiling. So at the consensus level, there's parallel competitive nodes working toward consensus at all times. And because of that, that's why you never hit the scale ceiling. You never have that situation where, you just can't compete to make things better. In Bitcoin, that's always the case. And so BSV, at some point, in a one-to-one shootout with all the transactions in the world, BSV would prevail. And Solana would break down at a specific spot. I'm going to read a DM from Mr. Moon. He sent me, it's 5 lines long, which is a lot for me to read while talking. Okay, cool. Thank you, Alex Moon. I'm gonna go ahead and explain this to people. So I mentioned on Twitter that there would be 2 tickets to go to CoinGeek Conference New York for free. All expenses paid at the venue, not including travel, bed, board, etc. But if you can get yourself into the place, we'll feed you a few meals. You get to rub shoulders with me, frankly. You get to see how well dressed Alex Moon is, which is always the thing I'm most excited to see at CoinGeek Conference, and a whole bunch of other stuff. I mean, last time we had the big party was London, and holy cow, did we have a whole lot of little people handing out pizza and some interesting stuff there. And actually, Craig Wright, I'll tell you a little Craig Wright story from CoinGeek London after party. I am sharing a slice of pizza with Brent Beaver or Biver or whatever it is from Bitping, and Billy Rose from Twetch, and might have been Nick Carton, somebody else from Bitping, I think. So we're talking and whatever, and somebody plows into me, into my back, reaches over me, grabs a piece of pizza off this thing, like pulls it, and I'm like half tackled here in this really crowded nightclub, and I turn around like basically ready to, whoever it's going to be, and I'm going to grab him and say, "Hey, man, watch where you're going." Well, wouldn't you know it, it is Dr. Craig Wright, dressed as Doc Brown from Back to the Future. So he's got like the long hair, he's like goofy hat on, all this stuff. Like he's dressed like a mad scientist. He's like, he says, something. It's super loud in there, so it's something pizza, something. Hey, let's take a picture, and just like, holy God. Because I mean, he plowed into me so hard it like basically knocked the wind out of me because I wasn't paying attention or anything, and I just got like, it's like getting rear-ended at a stoplight. It was ridiculous. So there was that. But CoinGeek Conference New York this season is going to be probably a little bit calmer than that due to the COVID situation and some of the New York specific laws about all that. So it's probably gonna have the police there enforcing the 6-foot rule among everybody, kind of like in Zurich. Zurich was pretty rough too. You got the guys out there telling you, make sure you pull the thing over your nose, and everybody's mad at everybody else. So someday this pandemic will be over, I think, and then we'll have parties again. That'll be a good time. But all that to say, please pay attention. There's going to be a ballot situation, some kind of, I would call it like a lottery or a raffle sort of, but maybe that's the wrong thing. Maybe I'm misunderstanding what Mr. Moon says by ballot, because I feel like it's one of those words that the British use, maybe different than the Americans, but it could be. Either way, there are opportunities to win free passes to CoinGeek Conference New York. Just pay attention. No party, no after party, he says. But pay attention to my Twitter. Pay attention to the official CoinGeek Twitter. And there will be some opportunities there. Alex, if we could pull up a couple of questions here, get them in queue. Do we have an ad to run? Should we run an ad, or should you just nobody sponsored this episode? You give me a thumb.
Time to redefine industries. Time for the BSB blockchain. It's about time, New York City.
This is literally the most professional show produced in the entire blockchain space, largely because of Alex Moon. Thank you, Alex Moon, for doing everything you do to make me look like a giant horse's ass live on the air. It's good. It's a good time. Carbon Craft, always the first person in the troll box to say one or first after that one time that I said first, and now he beats me every single week. Carbon Craft, you are my hero. When TSC Moon, well, we're either talking about the what is the standards? I can't think what it is. Standards Committee. I'm kidding. It's not that. It's not the Bitcoin Association standards people. TSC is Token Swap Coin. I don't know when Token Swap Coin mooned. Frankly, had you bought it on the 14th when a great many of us did, it had already mooned. But no, I think we're just at the beginning of this thing. For anybody that wants to know what the heck TSC Token Swap Coin is, I encourage you look into Uniswap on Ethereum. So what does the Uni coin do in the Uniswap ecosystem? It exists there. In order to do, Alex just filled me in. Technical Standards Committee. I don't know why that was so like jumbled in my nugget brain, but it was. So if you look at the Uniswap coin and what it does in the Uniswap ecosystem, provides liquidity and does some other stuff. But its success is tied very much to the success of the exchange itself. We've seen similar things. As I recall, the first one that actually really did this was Binance, so the BNB coin. So you invest in BNB and they lower your fees if you use BNB for fees rather than other things. So you create like this internal demand inside your exchange, and it makes the value of that coin go up because it has actual utility, but just in that closed ecosystem. If I recall, Bitfinex did something similar when they got hacked. They pushed out the BFX coin, which was like a loan guarantee coin and things like that. So if you're going to run a business that allows people to trade in your ecosystem and you issue a coin that confers some sort of benefits to the users of that system, then bam, that coin automatically has at least that one piece of utility. And I imagine TSC will end up doing more and more of that. I snagged a chunk of it because it's the first true DeFi platform built on Bitcoin SV. Works absolutely delightfully. It's really, really good. There's opportunities to pull funds, provide liquidity. You get paid out your proportionate amount of the fees at every block interval and all. That's really cool. So it's a really fun thing. But TSC, I will imagine, like whenever they make announcements for special things that will happen with their internal coin, that coin will go up in value. And ultimately, here's why I like TSC is because they are taking it. The internal team are taking it as part of their compensation on a regular basis. They get paid in TSC. So they have every incentive to make TSC go up in value. And so it's probably a pretty good investment in that regard. Of course, speak to your tax attorney and your family office people and all of the other people that you need to talk to about the legal and tax implications of investing in weird tokens on the interwebs. I'm not an investment advisor. Arnout Meester. I'm trying to think if that's like is this a hidden name? Is this a joke that I have missed? Arnout Meester. Arnout Meester. It's like, yeah, anyways. Any news on Teranode? No, but I imagine we will hear news. If there is any news, we will probably hear at CoinGeek. Steve, for the last, Steve Shatters, the CTO of nChain, the greatest man on earth who wears a ponytail. He will likely give a presentation like he has the last several CoinGeeks in a row, where he sort of gives like the technical update to the network and the node and all of that. Again, calling back to London, I think he gave one of the very best presentations at the entirety of CoinGeek London. And he called up the entire team that worked on the node. There was like probably 15 or 20 people on stage. And like, he just looked so proud, clapping his hands. Like he was like a father watching his children graduate at the celebration, the victory lap, the launch of Genesis stuff. It was a really happy time. And I'm always really excited to hear what's going on in the node. So I always look forward to the Steve Shatters presentations. They're usually like the first or second presentation at the whole event to just kind of give an update on the entire like software situation in Bitcoin SV. So I would expect news there. The last news that I received was at Zurich, where he showed us a live demo of 50,000 transactions per second. And then there was a private demo for media and some other people where it was about 100,000 transactions per second using just a few clusters on Teranodes. It was really, really cool. But nothing else that I know. I would bet, and this is just me, I do not have any inside information, but I would bet that some of the stuff going on at some nodes somewhere, at least some of the listeners, are probably Teranodes today. Because they've got to be testing that stuff. We know Steve said that they would have listeners on at first for a certain period of time, and then at some point start to put a little bit of hash power behind them, and then ultimately phase out the current implementation of Bitcoin SV. So it's possible that there are Teranodes on the network right now. We just don't know. So that's all I know. If I find out more, I will let you know. Michael Ches, I've heard Shatters say the DAA, this is the difficulty adjustment algorithm, will be added to BSV post Teranode. He explained it as a potential threat vector to implement DAA with lower protocol throughput. Kurt, can you shed a light on this topic? And then thank you for the banana and the gorilla emoji. I appreciate it, Mr. Ches. So the difficulty adjustment is kind of a weird conversation. I've heard two really good arguments about why the difficulty adjustment matters in BSV. So we are a minority hash rate chain. And so if we were to eliminate the thing that it allows us to have our difficulties separate from BTC's difficulty, in theory, BTC's hash power would attempt to reorganize BSV just automatically. So this is they call it replay protection, because it would see the Bitcoin protocol and it would say, "Ooh, this whole chain is way off. Like, this is a chain that's been separated for 3 years but should be orphaned." So they would fight each other. Essentially, that's the way the paper or the protocol treats what's essentially a rogue chain. So it is that's an interesting situation. So the way that happens is BSV's difficulty adjusts at a much faster rate, so that if somebody brings in a bunch of hash power, it doesn't automatically really mess the chain up. So on BTC, on the other hand, the difficulty adjustment is about 2 weeks long. And so this is why we see periods of extreme profitability or extreme unprofitability actually on BTC, because it doesn't have the ability to adjust as fast. Now, at some point when we are closer to parity in hash, so assuming, let's say it's like globally, let's say it's 500 petahash each for like a total of global 1 exahash of SHA-256 power. And if we're both close, like if we're around 50% each, it might make sense at that point to change the difficulty adjustment and allow them, like eliminate replay protection and allow the chains to fight it out for absolute victory. So, but it's kind of it's a game theory conversation that I've only really thought about at a pretty surface level, pretty high level, like kind of look at the whole landscape, but I'm not crystal clear on all the implications. However, I thought it was very clear that we would need to be, at a place where we're at about parity with each other. But Dean Little, I mentioned this too once, and he laughed at me, as he often does with people. And he said, "Oh, no. Here's why we should eliminate it right now." And for the life of me, I can't remember what he said. So I apologize. But go bug Dean Little. He loves being bugged, actually. So tag him. Tell him Kurt said to ask you, Dean, why should we change the difficulty adjustment and have this hash war with BTC right TF now? Mezwaz, Kurt, what do you think of Algorand? It is the only coin founded by a serious person. Everybody always says this about Silvio Micali. I know who he is. I know he's a famous mathematician and computer scientist and blah, 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 blah. But everybody always acts like he's the only person alive who's just incredible. Honestly, Algorand is a proof of stake system, which computer scientists really seem to like proof of stake systems, but economists don't. And here's why. A proof of stake system makes the entire network like equity. If you have the most stake and the largest validator, it means unless you change it about yourself, you will always have the most stake and the largest validator in the network, which means you will be getting more tokens as a reward than anybody else. So you become an impenetrable hierarchy on a network. And that's a problem, because competitive consensus is the thing that gives you the instant feedback. This, you're staring at your ASIC machine in your home and saying, why are you not more efficient? How do I make you more efficient? How do I make the network better so that I can profit more? And you don't get that in a proof of stake system or whatever variation on it that Algorand is. They may not be typical proof of stake, but they're all proof of stake systems at their core. And so the networks stagnate. We've seen all of them stagnate. We've seen them have aristocratic governance issues. And people would say the same thing about Bitcoin, but it's because they're actually almost always small bloggers doing the same thing with their nodes. Like, no, my node is my vote, and we can collectivize like a weird general strike coup against consensus. But nobody wants to commit to proof of work. And it's just not that hard. So things that are governed by proof of work are irreplaceable, in my opinion, because in a proof of work system, you know that the king is the most valuable person in the network because he is the king because he provided the most value, and he only remains king because he continues to provide that value. So this is a really important aspect of governance, not just coming to consensus, but it's a governance thing. And so Dr. Micali or Misali or however he says, I know he's like Italian. He's great. He's a genius, like software, computer science, all that stuff. It's really, really good. Problem is it's, Bitcoin is not so much a computer science feat as it is an economic feat. And truly, Bitcoin, the Bitcoin protocol, as implemented exclusively in BSV, is really unique for reasons that are not based on the computer science tech. It really is the network economics and then the economic systems that it applies to people. It should motivate us to get out there and do business development, or at the very least, start to mine, try to compete, become a node, like do these things, do the work, do proof of work, and get rewarded by a proof of work system. That's how I feel about Algorand. Ultimately, Algorand and everything else, they all just do the same thing. They record data that is sent to them in transactions. That's it. That's all any blockchain does. So the thing that makes it unique is how does it do it technically? How does it do it economically? And I'm not interested in the things that Algorand is doing in that regard. But thank you for the question. Chief Naples, my friend, has anyone created smart contracts on run tokens? How close are they to oracles? Technically, a token is a smart contract. I mean, in a really basic sense, so is a Bitcoin transaction is a smart contract. Like they're scripts. You have an unlocking script that sends a transaction into a locking script, and then it's locked in the UTXO set. But they're very simple. What I'm sure you mean is, Ethereum level or some of these things like up in Scrypt, for example, smart contracting language in Bitcoin, written in Bitcoin script. Run is an abstraction of that using JavaScript in the op return. And technically they exist now. A run token is a smart contract. I have not looked at building out anything bigger or grander up in Run, but I have talked to Brenton Gunning, who's the guy who created Run. And according to him, you can bust a move and program all kinds of really cool stuff in Run, much the same as you can in Scrypt. So no big deal. I actually think somebody's just basically got to do it. So take a look at the documentation. Run.network has really good docs. So take a peek, give it a shot, and let us know. I know you and I think it's your son, Chief, are software guys. So have your kid look at the docs. I'd love to hear what's going on there. Michael Ches, Kurt, can you possibly share your thoughts on tokens migrating to other better token protocols, i.e. Sensible Contract? Let me start by saying I don't know that Sensible is necessarily a better protocol than anything else. There's a lot of token protocols on BSV now. There's everything from like ELAS tokens to tokenized, or I believe, what do they call their tokens over at Twetch? They have they have some stupid name for them. Just like everything else, but it's like a misspelling. I don't remember what it is now. But then the really popular ones, a lot of people program and Run because it's really flexible. People like JavaScript. And then ultimately, you start to create a little bit of buy-in and like, well, everybody else is using Run tokens, so we can interact with them if we go that direction. So Run is doing really well for itself. As for Sensible is a really interesting piece of technology in that they're much bigger scripts, because they're trying to simulate a whole bunch of things in Ethereum more deliberately. And so people aren't super aware of how they work. In fact, I have not looked real deeply at their documentation, but I do remember about 6 months ago when their white paper came out, or whatever it was like a call to like, hey, everybody should move towards Sensible, and here's why. And it was really good stuff. But to me, at a glance, it kind of looked like we needed to hard fork in order to make it happen. But they've since changed things up a little bit and made it that everything was able to be implemented, obviously without a hard fork, because we haven't had a hard fork and there's sensible tokens running on the network today. So they're just different. The cool thing is that you can wrap a token in any other token. So if you wanted to wrap your run tokens and run them on Money Button SFP protocol, you really just need a multi-sig wallet that you put them in. And then you issue new coins, and then they function over there until you burn them, and then they go back to Run network. And you do the same thing with Sensible. You can wrap a Sensible token in Run, or a Run token in Sensible, or a Fabriik token in whatever. They're all interoperable if you wrap them. You just need to create an escrow wallet, multi-sig, and you reissue tokens on the other network to work in your system. So an example of this could be the Ape token at Gorilla DAO. You could take your Ape tokens, you could wrap, let's say there's 10,000, and you take 10,000 of them and you put them in a multi-sig wallet that you will not use under contract. You issue 10,000 Sensible tokens so you can trade them on T-Swap. And then once you've cashed them out or whatever else you decide to do, you just do that. You take them back, you burn the ones in Sensible, they're dead, you send them back to Money Button, and you've done whatever you've done. So there are ways around these things, although it would ultimately be good for the most flexible and most common protocol to just become the only protocol. I think this is part of the reason why Ethereum has been so successful, is they stuck with the ERC20 standard, and they've made everybody develop on that. So that's how that is for now. Next question. Vineet Kamal. Can exchanges like Coinbase, who never gave customer their BSV, be sued for theft? Yes, of course. At some point, yeah, I don't see a reason why not. In fact, you could organize, and you could sue them now, frankly, or you could start to organize a class action or whatever else. In fact, I keep hearing a little bird saying there's a class action brewing on that topic. That and a few other things just related to like market behavior in regards to BSV being malicious and predatory. But no other details. I just kind of keep hearing whispers about it coming from various people. But you can sue Coinbase. Sue Coinbase. Go get an attorney and tell them, hey, give me my BSV. I think a lot of people would probably be pretty supportive. Next question, Mr. Moon. And let me know when we get down to like, 2 or 3 questions left, and then we'll do a little rappy. Josh Arroyo. Kurt, I'm a little concerned with this last crypto dump. BTC didn't fall much. That's not a good sign. Will Craig dump his coin? This is crucial in my opinion. I have no idea what Craig's going to do. We don't have powwows. He doesn't text me. He very rarely sends me emails. He does actually respond to me if I email him, though, which is pretty nice of him. I really have no idea. I don't know the situation with Craig's coins, other than they are the subject of, I think, could possibly be the largest private tort ever. It's like $60 billion worth of Bitcoins that are in hock in Miami with the Kleiman case. So as soon as the Kleiman case is over, then it would make sense to actually pressure Craig, which is why I've been saying for a very long time not to bug Craig about it so much. He can't really do anything with them because according to the law, they might actually be Ira's coins, even if they're not, his, because justice, like the law's a weird thing. So it's possible Craig loses and those become Ira's coins and things like that. So he can't just go spend them. They are the subject of a giant lawsuit. The ownership of them is under contention in Miami, U.S. federal court. So what does he do when they become his again? I don't know. I really, really don't know. I wish I did. It would certainly help planning portfolio moves, but that's not really the point. I get that we're all investors to a degree, right? But ultimately, we can make the value of BSV go up. We just have to be willing to bust ass. Like, that's the opportunity. You have to ask yourself, why has Solana gone up? Well, Solana people have pitched Sol to people in order to do X, Y, Z, and the rest of it on Solana. So demand has made the price go up. We can do the same thing with BSV. We just have to believe that we can and then work our asses off. I know that's not the answer people want to hear. Mega neutral. How or where can we see the total hash rate, the current total hash rate in Gorillapool? So let's segue to Gorillapool a little bit. It's me and a couple of guys, really. I mean, the Gorilla DAO paid for it. The Gorilla DAO has a lot of members in the BSV community. They paid to launch the pool. So that bought server infrastructure. It bought the software implementation of the node. It bought basically everything to run the pool and no hash power. So we have been creating incentives to bring in hash power. And actually, I'm part of a deal where we just bought 17 miners also that will be going online in the next couple of weeks for Gorillapool. This private deal. It's not a Gorillapool deal, but I'm involved because I get involved in things. But there is not a public endpoint where you can see the total hash rate, unfortunately. We launched without a website because we just kind of launched in beta. We were just sort of testing and wanted to see that everything was working. And we asked Twitter if you have a little bit of hash power, can you send us a little bit of hash power? We want to try some stuff out. And wouldn't you know it, we found a block on like the second day we were up, which we weren't expecting to do, but turns out we calibrated everything just right, and we had just enough hash to find the hash that the network was looking for. We mined a block. Then a bunch of people got excited. A bunch more hash power came in, and we started mining a bunch of blocks. Now it's gone down a little bit. In fact, I actually have admin dashboard rights. So give me a second here. I want to reload this page. I'm not going to show you because I don't want people to see our secret information. We have 1.91 petahash on the network right now. So that is a little less than 1% of total network hash rate right now. So in theory, that means we should find one out of every 150 blocks or so. So it's like once a day, maybe. And that's about what it's been. We find a block every day or two right now at the current hash rate. But the network pays out anyways, and you get paid out every 12 hours if you put a worker on the network. So it's pretty cool. We don't have a website. We don't have anything. We really were not trying to do a public launch when it launched, and then the blocks just started coming. So if you want to help us, the best way to help us, well, there's a couple of things. Join Gorilla DAO. Buy ape tokens, because those ape tokens go into the treasury, and then you can vote with your ape tokens on how to spend the money in the treasury. So if you say, hey, you guys need to have a public website that has the total hash rate and a mining profitability calculator and a way to purchase hash for the pool and cloud mining or whatever else, whatever you think should be on the website. So join at ape.capital, join Gorilla DAO. Put your money where your mouth is, create a proposal, get the proposal passed, and we will implement it in Gorillapool. Otherwise, right now it's really just me and two other dudes. A little bit of help. I mean, we certainly have people that are doing other things, and the people that built the software are helping us make sure that's all up to snuff as well. Doing a little bit of bug fixing and stuff, but we do have some really cool stuff coming. There's going to be some super secret special NFTs and token drop and some other cool stuff. And the people that hash with us before we're completely set up will get an extra bonus too. So if you have a little bit of hash power, you got an ant miner sitting in the closet or something, mine with us. It will be worth your while at some point, I promise. I mean, you'll literally be paid out every 12 hours relative to how much you contribute, but there's also a bonus coming. So if you can join early, that could include like buying a little bit of hash power on Nice Hash and sending that way. And then you get to say, hey, I helped you mine a block here. And then you're privy to some of the bonuses that are coming. But to answer your question, there will be a public website that gives statistics and sort of explains like how to join, what to do, and some of the basics on Gorillapool. It's just not up yet, and it's because we like put the pedal to the metal before we screwed the doors on the race car, basically. So sorry, but also thank you. It's been really nice to have people come in and mine with Gorillapool. It's pretty exciting. Mr. Moon, next question, please. Joey Ferguson, will the CoinGeek event require VAX since it's in New York? It's a clarifying question here. CoinGeek is not demanding anything of you. However, the city of New York is really, really demanding. I have been told there will be a VAX card double checky at like check-in at the front desk at the hotels and at the event and whatever else. It's the law in New York City. If you want to fight the law in New York City, by all means, you have my support politically. But no, there's nothing I can do. There's no string that I can pull aside from bribing New York City police and the mayor and everybody else to turn a blind eye at various locations around the city, there's not really anything we can do. I can also tell you, we know it's a bit of a pain in the ass, or kind of a giant pain in the ass in many regards, and that the people inside of CoinGeek tried really hard to pivot to doing it in a different place. Problem is, we booked this stuff out like a year in advance, and then when something like this happens, everybody tries to jump ship at once, and then all the venues and places like Miami, where stuff is a lot more free, well, they fill up instantaneously too. So there really wasn't a place to pivot to, and we're all a little bummed out about it. So I apologize. I really wish I could see every single one of you at CoinGeek New York, but it is not aligned in the stars that way. However, if you get yourself a Vax card, it's probably going to be a pretty good time. So hope to see you there, and I apologize to anybody who can't make it because of the rule stuff. I imagine it will be better next time. Next question, Mr. Moon. Earth, the Earth talking. Can you try to get onto Timcast podcast? They're always talking about decentralization, so I think they would be a good fit. I would love to. I am a fan. I watch the show myself. We have reached out even and not received a response. The real way to do this, I need an army of people, really, truly, to push for it. I made an announcement about a month and a half ago that I'm going to be on a pretty big show. We've had a number of scheduling conflicts. I was supposed to be on with them again this week, and it fell through because multiple scheduling conflicts. But I'm going to be on a big national show in the very near future. I just can't tell you which one, so we don't get Greg Maxwell all pissed off and start harassing everybody. But what we're going to do is we're gonna kick ass on that show. But if you want me on Tim's show, or people are always talking about, hey, Kurt, you need to get on Joe Rogan. I don't just have Joe Rogan's cell phone number, so I need like 1 million of you guys to tag Joe Rogan and say, hey, Joe, have Kurt on. He can talk about jujitsu and Bitcoin and eating elk meat and coyotes and all the other crap that he talks about. So please help me. It can't just be me. Like, he needs to know that there's an audience that would like to have Kurt give his opinion to the Joe Rogan experience. But please, 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 and thank you for everything. Next question, Mr. Moon, who I imagine is getting tired because it's pretty late in the place he is, which I won't dox in case Greg Maxwell's listening. I don't want him to get assassinated. Alan Ross, any update on Tuvalu? Is any government data on chain yet? I don't know if there's any government data on chain. I do know that as a project that is proactively being worked on. However, I do not know the details. And Alex Moon saying he's not important enough to kill. So for anybody that's interested, he's staying at the... no, I'm just kidding. He's in Dubai. He's having a good time. I was watching him eat shawarma earlier. He looked very happy. Yeah. Yes. I don't even remember what the question was that I was answering. I have distracted myself so thoroughly. Did I answer the question? Oh, Tuvalu. Sorry. I don't know the status on Tuvalu. I know it's being worked on. I'm friends with George, and I'm friends with the dudes from Elas, and I'm friends with various people from Enchain. Tuvalu comes up all the time. I also know there's like a couple of secret government deals that I can't even hint at. So stuff is coming, but I am not close enough to the game to tell you what they are. Very sorry. Next question, Mr. Moon. Wi-Fi. Can tokens created or built on top of BSV protocol be double spent? If not, can you explain how it's impossible to double spend those tokens? So anything built on BSV is as privy to the consensus as BSV itself. If you put something in op return, in theory, it could be pruned and that kind of thing, but ultimately it's a transaction. So if you're moving a token, you're creating a unique token hash that is moving with that transaction hash as well. So they're connected to the Bitcoin transaction and privy to proof of work. Can you do one that is different than that? Yes, but we're not really seeing them much. We've seen one or two tests from, again, Dean Little, of all people. So ask Dean, because he's got all kinds of crazy theories. I'm sure he could create a token that is that's designed to only be double spent if he really wanted to. But no, right now, the basic stuff that you're using, your run, your SFP, the money button one, uses a centralized like Oracle. So that probably can't be double spent ever, because it's they're like one of the validators. They add a validator in the middle. But run tokens are up in op return. They're pushed by transactions. Same with Sensible and Stas tokens that people are talking about are literally Bitcoin transactions also. Like there isn't anything that isn't part of the UTXO set. So anything that moves the UTXO set can't be double spent for the same reason that you can't double spend a Bitcoin. But that's, I think, the simplest way to put it. Josh Arroyo, why you been wearing these Hawaiian shirts? Miami-ish or going with American Tourist? You from Chicago? Act like it. Honestly, I don't even know how it's. Oh, I do know how it started. I just remembered. So my son's godmother, Maria, my dear friend Maria, she is a jiu-jitsu person. She owns a gym in Chicagoland with her husband, Mike, who's one of my dear friends. And she picked up a $5 Hawaiian shirt at Walmart like a year ago. And it was a Kurt size shirt. I'm quite a big dude. I'm like 6'3", like 265, 275 pounds, and built like a linebacker. Okay. She buys me this big honking Hawaiian shirt and puts it on. She says, here, this will fit your personality. And so I started wearing Hawaiian shirts, and it kind of became a joke. So I just kind of keep buying them because they're super cheap at Walmart. And I just think they're kind of funny because I'm this big guy in a Hawaiian shirt. So it's kind of that. It's a little bit me making fun of my dear friend Maria every time I wear a Hawaiian shirt. Snektoshi Nakamoto. What do you predict the outcome will be? Bring the rest of the question up, dude. I can't read that fast. Jeez. Well, the outcome will be for the 5 BTC ETF applications being ruled on in October. And how do you expect this to affect the market overall? Well, small blockers will call everything a victory no matter what. Everything that ever happens with BTC is good, and everything that happens with everything else is bad. Whether it's an altcoin or fiat or anything else, everything is evil, BTC good, and therefore small blockers will say we've won again regardless of the outcome. I don't think the ETF will pass. Frankly, Bitcoin was created to get rid of the necessity of things like ETFs in the first place, so I think it's a pretty dumb idea anyways. But people are obsessed with exchange traded funds and trying to treat everything like a financial vehicle. So what will the outcome be? I don't know. Bullish, maybe. But I remember in 2017 when CME Group was going to launch futures, everyone was, we're hitting the big markets here at CME Group and CBOE. And it started off like 2 years of bearishness, like literally the launch of Bitcoin on Bitcoin futures at a major exchange. So some of this stuff, whatever. Bitcoin is a financial vehicle. People should stop treating it like it's something to be bundled up into a portfolio, and we'd all be better for it. But as for what happens, who knows? I think everything that happens over there is pretty bonkers. So sorry, good question though. Next question, Mr. Moon. We got about 12 or 11 minutes left in the show. Andreas BSV, Kurt, can you please explain why people should take their BSV off centralized exchanges like Bitfinex? Mr. Andreas, I suspect you did not listen to the beginning of the show because it's basically the first thing I said. So here's what's up. Your BSV on Bitfinex and other exchanges is being used to short BSV. If you withdraw your BSV, they need to buy the BSV to close the short in order to give you your money back. So tell everyone to withdraw their BSV from centralized exchanges. This will drive the price up. You don't even have to buy the BSV. You just need to withdraw the BSV that you have on KuCoin and Bitfinex and Huobi and OKX and Coinbase. Because remember, Coinbase is a custodian in the whole thing. So if you're just leaving it there because you haven't done anything, it doesn't matter that they're not trading it there. They're holding the BSV there as collateral that is being used to pay interest on shorting your BSV. Withdraw your BSV. Sorry, I was pounding on the table. Which might have sounded really bad on the microphone. Next question, Mr. Moon. Also, let me know how many questions we got left. Like if we have a great many, I can give shorter answers. Have you ever done DMT? This is an AMA. No, I have not done DMT. I don't particularly like psychedelics. I really, really support people doing whatever psychonautic journey stuff that they want to do. In fact, I wish I was so brave. The problem with me is I don't really do well on substances. So when I drink or when I have too much coffee or when, I'm very, very sensitive to basically everything. And I almost always have a bad time when I drink or when I'm not opposed to, given some things a try, but every time I give everything a try, I have like the worst version of what's possible on that thing. And it's not anxiety. I don't have anxiety. I'm not scared to do it. But every time I do it, I end up regretting it. And I try stuff every couple of years, like, okay, let's see what this is going to do. Hate it basically every time. So when people are like, hey, DMT is like, we're going to blast you off into the universe and meet the mechanical elves, I feel like I'd meet the evil ones. It's just kind of how it works out for me. So I'm a little bit apprehensive about the idea, but perhaps I could be convinced. Here's a private message from Mr. Moon. Drama queen. Thank you. I appreciate that very much, Alex. Next question. Baltzar, how can you make BSV more private? Privacy. Use it more. Actually, we need more people to use BSV on chain, generate more little transactions, never reuse your addresses. Because the more UTXOs there are in the UTXO set, the more data there is to look into. So if you don't dox yourself by sending it to centralized exchanges that have your identity, you continue to make yourself more private as you use the chain itself. This is the way, truly. Next question. Hello, LinkedIn user. Token swap fees to total revenue from propagation of a block on BSV is increasingly drastically over BTC. Either TAL and other BSV processors will be very profitable, or other miners are attracted, which would be the only rational thing to do. Hash increases and so does price. With a massive holding of BSV and Treasury, TAL seem to win either way. Am I missing something? Sorry, I presumed TS was token swap, but I think he means to say transaction fees. I agree. So I think that ultimately TAL and other miners should all be dropping the transaction fee per transaction in order to encourage more and more use of the blockchain, because more use, more demand, price goes up, et cetera, et cetera. But of course, TAL is trying to position themselves to win in either direction. That's the point. But they're positioning themselves to win based on holding a whole lot of BSV. So they're definitely betting on BSV going up in value over time. So I think that's a crucial step here. We need BSV to go up in value over time because of demand. So the real issue here is not necessarily, I mean, the fees are related to it, but truly, we need people building businesses that can't be built any other way. And BSV is currently a lot more cheap than other blockchain solutions, but you're right. If we lower the transaction cost, who knows what kind of data science application stuff ends up going to the chain, and then maybe we're mining 100 gigabyte blocks, and then hash power obviously comes in to get those juicy big blocks. So I get it. It's chicken before the egg kind of situation. Was that another question, Alex? Or I think we're nearing the end here. Kurt, do you prefer the knight or bishop in chess? I'm going to go with the bishop. I like a diagonal man. Ultimately, I don't play a lot of chess, so I don't even really know. I do play occasionally, but I'm no good. Anybody with any real skill would destroy me, because I just can't, I know the rules, but I don't know any strategy really. Chess isn't my game. HV, can I get an invite into POW Chess, or is it already open? I forgot about POW Chess actually, and I don't know how to get into it, but I can check it out. If you figure it out, ping me on Twitter. I may go play with you, and you can take my money, frankly, because I'm not that good at the game. So we're about 7 minutes before the top of the hour, and frankly, I've been talking for almost 60 minutes, and my voice is really starting to feel it. However, I'm going to make a brief announcement here. I'm going to be at the Dollar Vigilante or Crypto Vigilante. I think it's the Crypto Vigilante Conference. I'm going to post about it on Twitter shortly with a link to sign up. But I'm going to be speaking at a mainstream crypto conference this week, invited by my dear friend Rafael Laverde, and talking to a general crypto audience about the power of Bitcoin. I'm going to cover the Bitcoin Civil War a little bit and talk about proof of work as a governance mechanism, why it matters, and how everybody on Earth can be a fintech startup as long as we stop with the small block nonsense. So watch my Twitter. I'm going to give a link to this in a little bit, a little later today. Please, if you have any hash power, mine with Gorillapool, reach out to either me or the Gorillapool thing. We're also doing a simple buyout opportunity. So if you have a mining machine that you aren't using, but you wish was making you money, but maybe your power is too expensive, or you don't know how to do it, or it's too loud for your living situation, talk to us about it. Send a message to Mine Like an Ape on Twitter. We'll figure out a buyout situation where we manage your machine, we plug it in at our server farm, and once it has paid you the BSV that it's worth, then it becomes the property of Gorillapool. So you have sold it to us over time, and we earned a bunch of money with it for you, at which point it becomes ours and Gorillapool gets stronger. So if that sounds like a cool thing to you, reach out to Mine Like an Ape on Twitter, and we'll bust a move there. So let's see. Anything else here, or should we hit the road, Mr. Moon? All right, Mr. Moon needs to go to bed. Alex, would you like to pop on the show for a second and say goodnight to everybody? So just kidding. All right, thanks everybody. I'm Kurt Wuckert Jr. This has been the CoinGeek Weekly Livestream. I appreciate you. Natalie, my dear wife, thank you for keeping the kids safe and happy while I do this show. I appreciate it immensely, and I couldn't do any of it without you. So thank you, dear Natalie, and Ronan and Molly too. Everybody, please join us every Tuesday at 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time for the CoinGeek Weekly Livestream, where you can ask me anything or listen to the guests. Thanks, everybody. Like, subscribe, etc. Peace out. Here's the salute. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye.
Time for change. Time for breakthroughs. Time to show the world. Time to redefine industries. Time for eco-friendly technology. Time to look for value through utility. Time for individual data ownership. Time for a universal source of truth. Time for an immutable data ledger. Time for the BSV blockchain. It's about time, New York City.